History, Standard 6th. Ancient India Cultural, Chapter number 10. In this chapter, I will be explaining you all the language and literature, life of the people, science, centers of education, art and literature. So children, it is believed that most of the languages in the region from North India up to Maharashtra are derived from Prakrit and Sanskrit. The word Prakrit is derived from a word meaning natural. The Prakrit languages were languages in daily use of the people. They can be divided into four groups, namely the Paisachi, Sauraseni, Magadhi, and Maharashtra languages. So the Marathi language was developed from Maharashtri. Now, in this process of the development of modern languages like Marathi, from the Prakrit languages, their original forms changed. They were called as Apabhrahmasha languages. Modern languages have developed from Apabhrahmasha languages. So the first one is language and literature. We will study about the language and literature. There was an uninterrupted literary tradition in ancient India. Uninterrupted means without any pauses or interruption. This literature was produced in which language? Sanskrit, Ardha-Magadhi, Pali and Tamil languages. It included religious literature, treatises on grammar, epics, plays, stories, etc. Epics means epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana are the two ancient Hindu epics. So epics were there. Okay. So Sangam literature. Sangam means a gathering of learned men. Now what is learned men? People who has gained a lot of knowledge by studying. Okay, so they were called as learned men. Now the literature, the written thing, compiled in such gatherings is known as Sangam literature. It is the most ancient literature in Tamil. Silapaddikaram and Manimekalai are the two of its well-known epics. From Sangam literature, we learn about the political and social life in South India during that period. Religious literature. Religious literature means what? Religious literature contains those books which contain information about a particular religion. The important text includes Agam Granth, Tipitaka, and Bhagavad Gita. The Jain Agam Granths are written in the Prakrit languages of Ardha-Magadhi, Shauraseni, and Maharashtri. The Agam Granths are a collection of the teachings of Vardhaman Mahavir. Whatever Vardhaman Mahavir had taught that time, everything is there in those teachings, in those books. Literary means written works like Mahapuranas, biographies, stories, etc. are available in Apabhrahmasha language. Which language? Apabhrahmasha language. Siddha Sen Divakar wrote Samay Sutta, a work in Prakrit on jurisprudence. Vimal Suri has told the story of Rama in Paumacharya, a poetic work in Prakrit. Haribhadra Suri's Samaraicha Kaha and Udyotan Suri Kuvalaya Mala Kaha are well-known works. Tipitaka has three pitakas or three parts. The word pitaka means a basket or some collection. But here in this, Tipitaka means a section. The Tipitaka is written in which language? Pali. It consists of three categories of text. First one is Sutta Pitaka. It includes the text of Gautam Buddha's teachings or sermons. They are called suktas. The second section is what? Vinay Pitaka. The word Vinay here means rules. The Vinay Pitaka gives the rules of behavior which bhikkhus and bhikkhunis in the Buddha Sangha should follow in their day-to-day lives. Bhikkhus were the men and the bhikkhunis were the females. The third one is Abhidhamma Pitaka. In this, Buddhist doctrine has been explained. A text titled Arthakatha, which explains the Tipitakas, is well known. Learned women composed gathas, that's narratives, about their own experiences. They have been compiled in the Therigatha. They are in a Pali language. Now the Bhagavad Gita, which is a sacred text, a holy text of the Hindus, is a part of a Mahabharata. The Bhagavad Gita tells us that each one of us should do our duty without expecting rewards. It also says that the path of devotion to God is open to all. Adi Shankaracharya lived during the 8th century CE. He emphasized knowledge and renunciation. He had given the more importance on knowledge, and renunciation means leave everything what valuable things you have to leave and live a chaste life. He wrote commentaries explaining the Upanishads, Brahma Sutras and the Bhagavad Gita. He established four mutts in four directions of India at Badrinath, Dwarka, Jagannath Puri and Sringeri. Kautilya. You must be known about the Chanakya. Another name of a Chanakya is Kautilya. Kautilya wrote the Arthashastra, in which he discusses at length. Arthashastra means what? Economics. He had written on economics, in which he discusses at length what constitutes an excellent administrative system. Now treatises on grammar. Ashtadhyayi, written by the grammarian, name of the grammarian is Panini, is considered to be the standard work on Sanskrit grammar. Patanjali wrote Mahabhyasya. It explains the principles given in Panini's Ashtadhyayi, Arsha and classical epics. As I told you all, Ramayana and Mahabharata are the two Arsha epics of ancient India. Arsha means composed by rishis or sages. The Ramayana was composed by the Rishi Valmiki. You can see in the picture. The main character of Ramayana is Sri Ram. Mahabharata has been composed by the sage Vyas. Its main theme is the war between the Kauravas and Pandavas. It also tells us about Lord Krishna's life. The Mahabharata provides a comprehensive picture of the various human sentiments and emotions and their consequences. Sometimes there is such a period in the history of language, literature and art that its glory remains undiminished even later on. The art, literature, etc. produced in such a period is said to be classical. Raghuvansh and Kumar Sambhava by Kalidasa, Kirtarjanya and Bharavi and Palwad by Megh are well-known compositions of the ancient period written in classical Sanskrit. Now we'll move on to the theatre. India has an ancient tradition of telling a story through songs, music, and dance. Nowadays we have theaters, in that we have musics, we have movies. But in olden times, in ancient times, what happened? India had an ancient tradition by telling a story through songs, music, and dance. So these arts have been discussed in great detail in the Natya Shastra by Bharat Muni. When these arts are presented with supporting dialogues, they are known as theatres. Among the ancient Sanskrit plays, Swapna Vasudhuta by Bhasa, Abhijanan Shakuntal by Kalidasa, etc., are famous. You can see in the picture the Bharat Muni. Narrative literature. In the ancient times, storytelling was used to educate people through entertainment. Gunadhya Bruhat written in the language called Paishachi, is well known. Panchatantra. You must be having those books, Panchatantra. In that we have lots of stories for children. So Panchatantra, composed by Pandit Vishnu Sharma, is an excellent example of narrative literature. This text has been translated into many languages. Similarly, Buddha Jataka tales. Buddha Jataka tales are also very well known. The life of the people in ancient period. The literature of ancient India sheds light on the way of life of a common people on the time. Those were prosperous times due to flourishing internal as well as foreign trade. The society was divided into different castes. There were organizations of traders as well as artisans. These organizations were called shrenis. Trade was carried out by sea as well as land routes. Indian goods like fine textiles, ivory, precious stones, spices, beautifully made earthen pottery were in great demand in foreign countries. So they used to do trade from one country to the another country. The main crops were rice, wheat, barley, and lentil, that is masur. The diet of the people included food items made from these besides meat, fish, milk, ghee, and fruits. The people mostly wore cotton garments, though silk and woolen garments were also worn. Their clothes resembled today's dhoti, upparane, mansdes, sari, etc. The concept of stitching clothes were introduced in India during the Kushana period. Now we'll move on to science medicine. We are going to study about the science. Indian medical science is known as Ayurveda. In today's life also we are using the Ayurvedic products. It has a very old tradition. It seeks to understand the symptoms of an illness, its diagnosis, and its treatment. Also, much thought has been given to prevention of illness. You must have heard about the story of Jivaka. It is there in your English text. Jivaka was a well-known Vaidya. at the court of King Bimbisara. The Charaka Samhita contains detailed information about clinical diagnosis and pharmacy. It was written by Charak. The famous surgeon Sushruta has discussed the diagnosis of different ailments and their remedies in his treatise, the Sushruta Samhita. The importance of this text is that it discusses the different causes leading to injuries, fractures, their types, and the various types of surgeries required for them. The text was translated into the Arabic language and was called Kitab-e-Susud. Vagbhatta also wrote many books on medical science. The Ashtanga Sangraha and Ashtanga Hriday Samhita are the most important of them. The Buddha Bhikkhu Siddha Nagarjuna, in his book Rasrat Narkakar, describes various chemicals and metals. Maths and astrology, the mathematics and astrology. The ancient Indians had studied mathematics and astronomy at great depth. Means they have studied a lot, in the deep study they have done. Indians were the first to use the numerals 1 to 9 and 0. They invented the concept of decimal system in which the value of a digit changes according to its place, ekam, dham, that is units and tens. Nowadays we have units, tens, hundreds, thousand, 10,000, lakhs. Okay. The scientist Aryabhatta wrote the book Aryabhatya, which included many formulae for mathematical operations. Aryabhatta was also an astronomer. He stated that the earth revolves around the sun. Varhamihir wrote the famous text Pancha Siddhantika in the 6th century AD. This text discusses principles of Indian astronomy along with the principles of astronomy from the Greek, Roman, Egyptian civilizations. The text of the mathematicians Brahmagupta, who lived in the 7th century CE, were translated into the Arabic language. Centers of education. There were many famous centers of education in ancient India. Students from other countries also came there for their studies. The Takshashila University. You all must have heard about this university. Takshashila University. Takshashila was an important city on the ancient Indian trade route. Today, it is in Pakistan. Archaeological evidence found there suggests that the city was established in the 6th century BCE. Jivaka, a contemporary of Gautam Buddha and a famous Vaidya, has also studied at Takshashila University. By the 4th century BCE, the fame of the university had spread far and wide. Chandragupta Maurya, the founder of the Maurya Empire, was educated at this university. The grammarian Panini and the Vaidyacharaka were also the students of that university. Which university? Takshashila University. You can see the university, the picture of university over there. The Greek historians who accompanied Alexander have also given a description on the university. They have stated that such a university did not exist anywhere in Greece. Such a beautiful university where there were lots of languages, lots of studies, books, everything. They have stated that such a university did not exist anywhere in Greece. The famous Chinese Buddha Bhikkhu Fahen, who came to India around 400 CE, also visited the Takshashila University. The university provided lots of different types of subjects. They also provided education on various subjects such as Vedic literature, Buddhist philosophy, economics, logic, etc. etc. Varanasi. The river Ganga has two tributaries, Varna and Asi. The city located between them came to be called as Varanasi. Since ancient times, it has had centers which provided education in the areas of Vedic as well as Jain and Buddhist philosophy. Vallabhi. Vallabhi was an ancient city in Saurashtra, Gujarat. From the 5th to the 8th century CE, it was an important center of Jain and Buddhist philosophy. Yuan Chuang and Atsing, the Chinese Buddha bhikkhus, had visited Vallabhi. Now comes the Nalanda University. The remains of the ancient Nalanda University can be found near today's Patna city in Bihar. Emperor Harshvardhan made generous donations to this university. According to the descriptions of Yuan Chuang and Itzing, Nalanda University could accommodate thousands of students. The library stocked thousands of books. Students seeking admission to the university had to appear for an examination at the entrance gate. So first they have to give the examination at the entrance gate, and if they pass, they used to get the admission in those university. Vikramshila University. This university was located near today's Bhagalpur in Bihar. It was established by a king named Dharampal in the 8th century CE. It had 6 viharas, each having its own separate entrance. Kanchi. During the reign of Pallava dynasty, that was in the 6th century CE, Kanchi in Tamil Nadu emerged as an important center of education. It was a center for the teaching and learning of Vedic, Jain, and Buddhist texts. You can see the stupa at Sanchi. Now, art and architecture. Indian architecture reached its peak during the Maurya and the Gupta's period. Beautiful art and architecture was there during the Maurya and the Gupta period. The stone pillars erected by Emperor Ashoka at various places are excellent examples of Indian sculpture. The stupa at Sanchi. See in the picture the stupa. The stupa at Sanchi and cave sculptures at Udayagiri, Kandhagiri, Karla, Nasik, Ajanta and Ellora, etc. show that same tradition advanced even further. The art of making images was developed during the Gupta period. Temple architecture developed during the reigns of the Chalukya and Pallava dynasties in the south. The temples of Mahabalipuram are a testimony to this architecture. The art of making bronze images of deities emerged during the period of the Pallavas. The iron pillar at Mehrauli near Delhi is evidence of the advanced knowledge of metallurgy of the ancient Indians. Thus, it is clear that ancient Indian culture was very prosperous and very advanced. In this chapter, we have studied a lot of things about art and architecture. We will study India's contact with other civilizations and its far reaching impact in the next chapter. I hope you all have understood this chapter. So, children, read the chapter 2 3 times, underline the hard words, and practice at home. Here are certain question answers you have to write down in your history notebook and study them. Thank you.